favorite positions.
We can start with that question.
Yeah, we'll
really
start
opens
with
up
that.
the door.
Is that like a treble up for us?
It's like a
Numbers, like I can't do that.
Hey, welcome to Retro Lab Records podcast. I'm your host, Kevin. This is Roger. Today we have with us the wonderful Kyoto Lo-Fi. Thank you guys for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Let's start with Nico. I've already given away your name, but just name and instrument you play.
I'm Nico. I play guitar and do vocals.
I'm Nguyen, aka Nunu. I play drums.
I'm Gabriel and I play guitar.
And I'm Paul, and I play bass.
Sweet. Very nice. So how'd you guys come together? Who met who first?
I believe Nico and I met first. It was a very transitional period.
Grinder.
Grinder.
Yeah, I got a lot of friends who do Grindr too.
It's underrated, man. I mean,
Yeah,
people think
man,
it's
you
only
can-
for sex and shit.
Yeah,
Nah,
you can be
dude.
friends, man.
Our producer, bassist, we all met on Grinder. Yeah.
That's cool. You look like a grinder guy, yeah.
Yeah. You look like you grind.
You grind well.
And
Find me on Grindr.
But no,
Yeah, hashtag Kyoto Lo-Fi Grinder.
Hashtag
At
Sponsored.
Grindr.com.
Sponsored.
Yeah, actually, our next single is actually dropping
exclusively
on
on
Grindr.
Grindr.
Is it really? That's cool.
There was like a kind of like a bidding battle between Grindr and Pornhub as to
Oh.
who was gonna.
That's
Wow.
I'm so
Yeah,
down
that's
to release a video on Pornhub.
I can't wait to see the artwork for
No,
that.
Pornhub.
I'm really-
Yeah, it's oh man,
for that
it's
cover.
pretty unexpected. Yeah.
I'm really
Who are the
excited for
artists?
that
Who are the
cover.
artists? Oh, this is great.
But for sure we met, I think, because of the internet.
No, because of Michael
Oh, because of Michael.
Oh, okay.
Different, as a Michael Campbell, right?
Campbell. Yeah.
Campbell. So at the time I was playing with, that's how we met. I mean,
Possible?
yeah, Possible. I was
Yeah,
Possible.
possible. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was playing with them for a bit. Then that was slowly, transitioning from him focusing on his personal endeavors with school.
Mhm.
So I was like, cool. I probably need to look for a new band, maybe, or
Yeah.
people to jam with, so I can keep my sanity. So I hit up this other Michael, and he's like, "We need a drummer. Like, we're just jamming at this point." It's like, cool. So that's when I stepped into the room, and Nico was someone there to jam with as well. But from then on, Michael left, then Nico stayed, and then I got kicked out by Nico.
What?
I don't know. I had to ask him why I kicked you out.
Oh,
Well,
that's
I
a
mean,
good
this
question.
is my first band. He always throws me under the
Let
bus.
it all out right now.
Nah, he was just really heavy into drugs, and I was like, I can't do this. Yeah, I kicked him out. Yeah, he was into roofies, and was like, I can't do this. No, but he was playing with another band, as he said, and
Okay, yeah.
this was my first band, so I was like, I'm dedicating like all my time and everything into this band. So in my mind, I was like, if you have two bands and I'm already like putting so much time into it, I can't imagine somebody that has two bands.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't think you're gonna be able to have enough time.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was pretty ignorant of me because I was my first band, so I was like. But that's why I said, I was like, if you have another band, I don't think you're gonna be able to commit as much time as like we'd like to this band. And he was like, all right.
Later.
Yeah.
so that's how you took it. You're like, all right.
I didn't fuck. I was like, I did it.
Yeah.
Respect it.
But were you playing with these two dudes?
No,
we had other. So the
Okay,
band
okay.
itself, at least myself, like I've gone through like 23 different people, like cycling, trying to find like an actual lineup.
Yeah.
And there were other people, and then he came along, and then he left, and then.
Bitch, I didn't leave. I was like,
Pointing out
deuces,
the door.
like, nah, bro, this ain't for me.
Yeah, man, he's out of here. Yeah.
I'm saying. But
No, but I crawled back afterwards. I was like, I texted him, I was like, hey man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He's like, what's up, man? It's like, yeah, dude, you still play drums? It's like, it's been fucking a month. Like, I still fucking play drums.
yeah.
He's sold and
Yeah, I
he's
was like, oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I was like, I'm down.
Yeah.
You want to like play again? Yeah. So
That's great.
yeah, I guess it's sort of in a way redeem myself because I called back. I was like, hey man, come back. I need you.
Come back.
Yeah.
But from then on, it was just him and I because then.
Yeah. Then with him, we cycled
we
another group
cycled
of people.
Fucking too many people.
Yeah.
Until we finally found it was Kobe and then Gabriel came in. That was. I think you recently moved from Victoria, Texas.
No, he was living here.
Yeah, you were in Funky Town. You moved to
Yeah,
Funky Town.
I moved up to Dallas like maybe at this point now it's been like 9 years, but I had moved up here right before I was 21, so like 19 and 20, and I had various different I'd been playing music since I was like 15, 16 with like friends, but it was more of like a punk rock thing. You know, I was like really into hardcore punk, and just once I moved away and came up here, I wanted to do something more along the lines of like indie or alternative, stuff like that, and more, you know, musically challenging stuff. But I had a few projects. I jammed with a lot of people that had projects, but nothing that never, you know, solidified, or, you know, it was like we played a few shows here and there, and I went out to a bunch of shows, but again, nothing that was really solid. And then at that point, when I met these guys, I was also in a transition period in my own life, but it wasn't like with music. It was just, you know, in my own life. I had moved back to Dallas with my parents, so just I wanted to try the band thing again, but this time I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to join a band more so than try to start one, because my previous endeavors I tried to start bands, but nothing. Just like they said, I could never find the right people. Like I cycled through so many people.
That's literally the hardest shit for a band.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part.
And even myself, though, my musical ability just wasn't where it should have been at that point. So once I joined these guys, and even then when I joined these guys, my musical ability just wasn't at the point that it was acceptable. But, you know, as I grew with the band and, you know, started playing more, like it really, you know, allowed myself to refine my chops and get a lot better.
Especially being like a new genre too, right? You know.
Right, and well,
Different
playing wise,
Yeah.
like I'd always been,
Okay, yeah.
I'd always been familiar. I've loved indie and alternative even when I was into punk, but it was nothing that I was like capable of playing. You know, when you're playing like, you know, fast hardcore punk, you know, it's a completely different
Yeah.
dynamic than like, you know, playing like indie rock or stuff like that. So I met these guys through, basically they were looking for another guitar player, so I joined their band, and that was the beginning of 2016. And they had the bass player, Paul wasn't in there, it was Kobe, and once I joined, we started playing shows shortly after I had joined, which was January 2016, and then we played our first show like March, April.
Yeah, that was so long ago.
But like you met them through Craigslist, right?
Right, yeah. They just put out an ad. I mean, you know, and again, that was just after just talking to so many people. I mean, they weren't the only ones. Like I had, you know, it's people flake. You know, you started a dialogue, and then it just kind of meanders, and then meanders into like oblivion, so to speak.
All too familiar.
Wait, actually, we had one. Who was it? Kobe that ended up jamming with the same guy that you jammed.
No, that was Steve.
Steve.
Yeah.
That
shit was
shit
crazy.
happens all the
Yeah,
time.
one of our
man.
bass player, the bass player before this guy,
Steve was a hoe.
Dang, Steve!
No, like a band.
He got around.
Like,
He got around.
Cause you jammed
Oh
with him.
yeah!
And another
That's
band,
how- that's
too,
how we
yeah.
connected.
Oh, yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah,
Jeez.
that's a small fucking world when it comes to music.
Yeah, so he came around y'all too many times.
Yeah, a lot of times.
Well, around him.
Around him.
But the story with him was like, I think they were talking, and one of them was like, yeah, a long time ago, I jammed with this like weird fucking guy. I don't remember the story, but he was just telling.
it was before I joined this band. I was jamming with some dude out in Fort Worth. I don't even remember his name, but he was just an interesting character. You know, he was cool, but it was like, you know, one time I went over to his house. I had the day off, and we were like jamming, and you know, this dude, like, we'd smoke weed and stuff, but it's like 9 in the morning, and this dude's like pouring himself like a glass of Jack, and he was just. But I'm a live and let live person. But just raised a couple red flags because it's like he's like, hey man, you want to drink? And I was like, nah, I'm good. I'll smoke.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
but I'm not.
man, you know.
Not trying to get wasted at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But he was just kind of a character. Like he definitely didn't have his shit together, for lack of a better phrase, and. The bass player we had before him, he had also jammed with him, so it was kind of a small world type of deal, and it was just that was a weird experience. And
Very
you know,
weird.
Trump was being, you know, announced his presidential run, and times were just weird.
Yeah, people drinking at 9 in the fucking morning. Trump's president.
Yeah, man.
Well, no, he had announced his run, but yeah, that
shit,
again,
that's
that was
long
just still during like a transitional phase. You know, the project. I tried to bring that guy into the project I have, but it was already crumbled by that point. So whenever I met these guys, I just I just went into it just saying like, you know, fuck it. You know, it was literally one of those like, fuck it, I'm just gonna jump in the deep end type of deal.
But the funny part of that was that they were sharing the stories. And I was like, I met this fucking weird guy.
Yeah, I
He was
knew
like,
the
it was
same
in this
guy,
house.
yeah.
He was like drunk all the time. I was like, oh, I met a guy like that once. Back in Fort Worth. It's like, yeah, it was Fort Worth. He was fucking weird all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, dude. And then they end up finding out it's the same fucking guy.
Yeah, it was kind of like a synchronicity type of deal. Like,
That's nuts. It's like piece by piece. I'll just get closer.
Yeah, exactly.
Closer
Yeah.
to figure it
Like,
out,
oh,
and then
shit,
boom,
yeah.
oh shit moment.
Yeah,
That's
it was
wild.
so fucking crazy. And after that, we went through fucking bass players like hotcakes. Like,
Really?
It was,
Yeah.
finding a bass player has to be one of the most tedious tasks.
Yeah,
For any-
I think it's harder to find a drummer. To be
Why
honest.
Yeah.
is it that way?
A drummer?
It's just, I think it's just, you were there kind of from the start that it didn't prove to be that
everybody
hard.
fucking play. Everybody
Oh,
and
yeah,
mom fucking plays
obviously.
guitar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
plays
yeah.
guitar, yeah.
Good drummer is hard to
Find
find.
guitars
Like,
everywhere.
Good
Yeah, we're still
bassists
looking.
are-
good
yeah.
bass is
'Cause
hard to find.
Most bassists are guitarists who are like, I'll play bass.
Yeah.
And they're guitars without the huge ego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll play
Yeah.
bass.
Yeah.
It's only 4 strings, right?
Yeah, that was I was watching something, and that was John Paul Jones said that was the reason he picked up bass, was just because it was drums or bass, and he was like, I saw 4 strings, no chords. I was like, heck yeah, let's do that.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Just riffing all the time, man.
Oh, I remember watching a video of the Jesus and Mary Chain. They're like, your bass only has 1 string. It's like, that's all I fucking need. It's missing like 75% of it.
Dude,
I
the
fucking
Black
need that.
Angels, Alex Moss, their lead singer, he'll just kind of like play on the top string.
Yeah,
That's
just
it.
drone it out.
Just drone
While
it
he's
out,
singing.
yeah.
Does he have the other strings?
He has the other
Yeah,
strings,
yeah,
but
yeah,
he
they
won't
just-
touch them.
Yeah.
That's
lot of
cool though.
different-
I feel like if I would do that, I would take those strings out. I feel like it's cool.
At least it looks cool, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even have that option. I'm
Yeah.
just gonna make it work.
Yeah.
So how did Paul come in the picture?
Oh yeah.
Fucking gay.
Yeah, I met him because we had played a show at the Door and it just didn't go well. And at that night, I just planned to meet up with friends over in Arlington over at Caves.
Oh yeah. Kids.
And I was seeing one of my friends' bands, and he was there. We just started talking. It was just kind of a random thing, you know. I guess I don't know if it was destiny or design, but I mean, it happened.
It felt like that, definitely, because at that time, I had just, the band that I was in disassembled, and they didn't want to play anymore. So I was kind of looking, and I went to go watch a friend play that night also. It was funny because, like, me and him, like, I looked over, and I thought there was a mirror there because we were in the exact same thing. Like black jeans, Vans, and a jean jacket.
Yeah.
I'm like, did a double take. I was like, dude, what's up?
You play music, man?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it went.
Yeah, that's usually what I get a lot. Everyone's just like
play
you when you
music?
answer the door. Oh yeah, dude, you play guitar, right?
So it's like you either skate or you play
Dude,
music.
skate.
Literally,
Everyone
yeah.
asks me that.
Everyone, yeah.
Everyone's like, do you
You
skate?
definitely look like a skater.
Yeah, I guess it's
I had a
fair.
guy go to the
Sound
door
like-
like 2 days ago, and I think I was ordering food. And I'm like, "You play music? I mean, you look like you play music. I don't know." He's like, "Yeah, I'll throw a line on a few rap songs." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." So that kind of music. So
When you're
But
looking
yeah, it is
for
like,
a band member, it's really disappointing. You're like, you play music? And they're like, no. You're like,
oh, like
Yeah.
nothing.
Got a cool
Like,
He looks the part. Yeah.
yeah, you look
Uh,
the part, man.
Are
Damn
you
it.
sure? Yeah. No.
I see you guys get these cool stickers. I don't
Dude,
see
hell yeah.
these for like. It's
Oh,
just
yeah,
like,
we got
it's not
it.
an actual case. You
Yeah,
just,
that's
it's a
actual
case.
case.
it's
yeah.
an actual case.
case.
Oh, dude, that's cool.
It's Kyoto merch prototype.
Kyoto merch.
I think we had like 10 of those made.
Yeah.
They're
That's
expensive,
pretty
man.
cool.
They're not
Yeah.
cheap.
Yeah.
They're actually pretty good quality though. They're
Yeah,
pretty
they're
good quality. Yeah.
Were they from
That's
China?
super cool.
I like the color.
Fucking
No, I
USA,
think they're
bro.
done here. Yeah.
Well, they
Good
hit up
in
China.
USA.
Yeah, right. Get a little bit less.
They probably just have the printer.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
it's
they order
probably
everything else
you could
in
probably
China.
get the same thing, but it'll probably have like lead-based paint or some shit.
Yeah.
And it gets here like next year.
Like Washington. Yeah,
Go
next
through
year.
customs and all
Yeah,
that shit.
definitely.
It's
And,
like,
it causes defects.
Yeah. It's like, I always wondered if they had like weed in China, and if they did, it'd probably be like sprayed or
But you
irrigated
can't use
with
this
like
phone if
lead-based
you're
water or
pregnant.
some
You
shit.
can't use this case.
The name. How'd you come up with the name? Kyoto Lo-Fi.
So Kyoto Lo-Fi, we were struggling with names for a while. I mean, we had a bunch of names. One of them we decided we were like, what is it, Whataburger, like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like we were eating, like fucking chomping down the car, just like thinking of names, 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And we ended up agreeing on like Modern Fuzz. I was like, that's the one, dude. And we were like, oh fuck, that's it. Like that's it. And then we were like, alright, this is it, this is the name. And like a couple days later, we find out it's in a fucking band called Modern Fuzz. And dude was like, oh shit, back into the fucking.
Back into
Yeah, just thinking about it. But so Kyoto Lo-Fi is actually before getting a band together, like I never found people at my level. They were all better. All musicians were always better. Mainly because I started late. I didn't start playing guitar until like after I graduated high school. So I was super late. When I wanted to join a band, they're like, "Well, can you play a C chord?" I was like, "Maybe." Like I don't know. C. And so they were all better than me, and nobody really wanted to like take time, which I understand. So there's no hard feelings. So I started like learning on my own and writing and recording shit, and eventually got to a point where I have a bunch of songs, so just uploaded shit. And one of the collection of songs was called Kyoto Lo-Fi because it was inspired by Jun Maeda, who I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's from The Pillows. It's a Japanese band, so it's inspired by him. It's inspired by John Dwyer or some shit like that from the OCs. And so I had like the lo-fi kind of from the John Dwyer recordings in Kyoto from the city in Japan that the Pillows is from. So I just like, well, these two guys are sort of what inspired this, so I named this Kyoto Lo-Fi.
Cool,
and then I went on my own thing, and then when I finally got this band together, we were going through names, and after like days and freaking months of like trying everybody like spitballing names and shit, I was like, what about like Kyoto Lo-Fi? And this guy goes, I fucking said that like the first day, like when we were coming up with names. He's like, that's like
he's
the
a very
first thing.
abusive boyfriend. Like he doesn't listen to me, then he kicks me out, and then he tells me to come back.
Then he tells you
What do you
want? That's great.
Yeah.
It's a weird name, but it's also like it's too late to change it.
Well,
It's so much
Go
momentum.
search that up on Google, and what are you gonna find?
Yeah.
That's
Yo,
true,
well,
yeah.
exactly.
It comes up
That's the one thing it has going for it is that
Very
it
true.
doesn't really roll off the tongue very well, but it's it does.
Well, I don't think it's that bad.
It's not that bad.
There's definitely some
Yeah.
It's a
worse
little.
ones.
It's
But it's weird when
original.
someone asks you, what does that
Original
mean?
shit.
It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know 2 words, bro.
Yeah. Kyoto Lo-Fi. Man, I think it's great.
Yeah, actually, at the
Yeah.
Central track, when they were like interviewing us, it's like, I mean, everybody sort of pronounces their own way.
Kyoto.
Yeah. And they're like,
Kyoto.
he was like, here we
Coyote.
are with
Coyote Hi-Fi.
Coyote
Kyoto, yeah. And I was like,
Kyoto.
It's like nobody's ever picked up a geography book.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's
Kyoto,
like
I feel
fucking
like
like
that's
that
sort
shit.
of
It's
like
standard
Tokyo,
knowledge.
Kyoto, and then
Yeah.
whatever the fuck's.
Yeah, Tokyo, Kyoto.
Kyoto.
Like,
Yeah, bro.
No, yeah.
Is there a Kai and then a Yoto? And I think Kai
It's like
would
a
be
coyote
the
or
Y. Is what the
something.
No, at one point actually we were playing and this band before was like, "Hey, stick around for Coyote Wi-Fi." And I was like, "That's her name now." Like, that's her name now.
Maybe that's an album. Kyoto Lo-Fi.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Coyote
That's a good
Wi-Fi.
idea.
Coyote
But I was like, I'm not mad. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah.
It's a good
I
spit.
prefer Cryoto.
That's cool. Kyoto 5.
Did man, when we played with you, I just remember you like threw your fucking guitar on stage, dude.
Yeah,
You were like,
smashing
Wait,
it.
that
I
was
like,
wasn't that
whoa.
the
Yeah.
show that we
Yeah,
played with
that's
them
the show. The
that's
show where we
show.
played
Yeah,
Yo. That's when they met.
That's
That
a
was
show.
that
That
day.
same night,
Because
dude.
I was super fucking
Yeah.
upset
What?
because it was the sound guy's first
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And not to talk shit, but he didn't really. At least because I think we were the first band. Or no, were we?
No.
I think you'll
No,
like
yeah,
it.
we're
We're
like
into
second.
this.
We're
Yeah.
second, and then
We're
maybe y'all were
second, okay.
next. Maybe.
No, I think you guys
No,
closed the night.
Yeah,
You
y'all
were
closed the
headlining.
night, yeah.
Was Children, so it was Summit, Children of Indigo, and then us, or something like
No,
that?
that was
No,
a
it's
different
different.
bill.
Yeah, I
Different
don't
bill.
think we
this is
played
a
with
different
Children of
bill.
Was this
Indigo.
like a battle of the band?
No,
No,
this was
no,
like
okay, it was just a
a
bill.
Friday night out of nowhere. The door.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so I was gonna.
Y'all had like a projector running Mario Kart.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
I remember that shit. I remember
Y'all
that shit.
had a little VHS TV.
Yeah.
I was
TV
like,
was dope.
Yeah.
I was
I
standing
remember
right
coming
in
back in
front.
when you guys like
Rest in
started.
peace.
I was like, who the fuck is
R.I.P.
playing Mario Kart like while they play? Like that's awesome.
Yeah,
Like he
dude.
sings and he's
Yeah,
like,
like,
That was the 420 show.
Was it?
That was a 420.
Was
no
it?
way. It could have been.
Yeah, no, because
Yeah, it couldn't have been if it was the night we
No,
met
it's-
him.
Yeah, it
No.
could because they weren't at the
It's like,
420
that would've
though.
been
We put
so
the
bad.
whole show together.
Some other one. Yeah.
It was one of
I would
those
have been too
shows.
high to remember to call you back.
Yeah.
I remember that night because I remember the sound guy. I had nothing in my monitor.
Yeah.
And I was like,
dude,
"Can
he
you turn
just-
up my monitor?" And he's like, "I got you." I'm
Turn it
like,
down.
it's just like, what the fuck?
Man,
Yeah,
he
but it was
kind of a
shitty.
dick. He was kind of a dick because he cut off Children of Men ago.
Oh, did he?
They were about to start their next song and he cut
Really?
him off. And that was our show, and we should have said something, but it was just a weird aspect, man. It was like, well, this guy's new. he
Isn't
doesn't
that
know
how
what
it
he's
usually
doing.
is with
It's
the
like-
door? I mean, I wouldn't assume
Well, I
it's
mean,
the
aren't
sound
they a
guy's
venue
fault.
anymore now? So
Wait, there's
Yeah.
a venue now?
there's something.
Just
Oh,
season
shit.
in.
There's something else. There's
Yeah.
something else, but
Yeah.
there's still Profit Bar. But I don't
Oh,
think it's
okay,
called
okay.
the Door anymore. Yeah. Or something else is in place. But yeah, man. That
But
was,
yeah, so when we played, we were all like really fucking upset. Like I couldn't hear myself. Like nobody could hear anything. At the end, like I was like, "Fuck this!" and just like slammed my guitar.
So that was
Yeah.
just like.
Yeah.
in the
Dude, no
moment,
offense to
you're just
anybody,
like-
I just wanted to leave because not only because I had plans, but it was just like I don't want to fucking be here. anymore.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I remember he was like, "Fuck Dallas." I was like, "You know what? I'm from Dallas, but I agree.
Yeah.
Fuck Dallas. So tonight, fuck Dallas."
Yeah,
man.
right.
Wow.
Yeah,
So-
just for the record, I'm a Funky Town transplant. I originally moved to Dallas, but I spent a lot of time out in Funky Town.
Yeah.
I
There's
talk
a,
shit
or
about
ter-
Funky
or-
Town. Oh,
Or I guess Tarrant County, so to speak.
Tarrant
Yeah.
County, yes.
Fort
yeah.
Worth. There's it's cool.
Yeah.
There's some. Yeah.
It's got its-
It's good to be back in Tarrant County, I'll say that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
D-Town, baby, every day.
Yeah.
That's
You
right.
represent
We
Dallas.
like that.
I got arthritis.
Yeah.
This carpal tunnel hit me hard,
You throwing gang signs? Nah, bro.
Nah,
just
bro,
have
just got
arthritis.
Talking about a match. Find someone else with carpal tunnel. See how quick y'all can do it.
But man, after they met, that shit just felt right. It locked in.
Very nice.
Yeah, with other people, usually it was like, we're kind of vibing, but it was like, yeah, hopefully this works. Doesn't look like it's gonna work.
Yeah.
But when he felt, it was like it just right on the
Yeah,
spot.
it's-
Mainly, like, I always
great.
say is like, the humor was there.
Yeah.
Because, like, I have really fucked up dark humor. I think we all do.
Yeah, yeah, dude.
And when he was, like, throwing, like, fucked up jokes, I was like, you're in.
You're it.
Yeah. Oh, you play bass, right, too?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool, then you're
Okay,
in.
now
Yeah,
you play
yeah,
bass.
yeah.
That's
As
man.
long as
Someone
you're
can
cool.
shred all day and play
Yeah.
perfectly, but
Yeah, but if they don't have jokes, that's
Yeah.
it.
it's not gonna work. You don't have jokes. I like that. You don't have jokes.
Yeah, you don't have
No, but yeah,
jokes.
if it doesn't vibe,
It doesn't
Not gonna
work.
work.
You tour with
It's
that
true,
person,
Yeah.
spend all your nights with that person.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
for
rough.
sure. So technically, y'all have been a solid lineup for the past 2 or 3 years now, right?
2
2
years.
years.
2 years, man.
Yeah.
That's solid, man.
How
That's
many
awesome.
releases have y'all had? Like,
man,
None
officially,
official.
one.
Well,
Officially.
Oh, yeah,
the
single, yeah.
single.
Okay.
We've thrown into the hemisphere of the internet a bunch of demos.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
feel out what the I guess the skeleton of the songs were. Because when we bring everybody into the songs, because mainly Nico gets the whole thing. It's kind of like a canvas. He,
Right.
he outlines it and shit.
Yeah.
And then Gabe with his guitar tone, because he's such a tone freak. It's fucking weird, but I respect it. He throws his own thing and kind of guides Nico too
Yep.
with his setup, because Nico's setup is fucking atrocious.
Yes.
But it's just like it meshes it, and then with
That's true.
Gabe's bass, because I mean Paul's bass, because Paul has some fucking fast hands, so he can do the licks right, and just altogether the songs that when we put it, especially Godot, because we released Godot actually
Oh,
last
shit, we
year.
did that.
Yeah.
We
I
released
forgot
Godot
about
last
that.
year, but it was the demo Godot. It
Okay.
was the Homeboy's laptop Godot.
Okay.
So
Alright.
finally, we fished it out. It went good. So we're like, let's fucking record it.
Yeah.
So we recorded it as a whole with Greg at his like.
But with
home
that said, we've
studio.
been trying to record.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We've tried to
we've
record.
tried with different people, but it's just like anything. It takes time, and
Yeah.
even
Yes.
our abilities and the performance just wasn't up to where it was. And
I personally feel like the I mean, I know a producer has to work and you gotta hustle, but like in the past, like I hear him, I was like, how can you be okay with this?
Yeah.
And not to talk shit, but maybe we just didn't have enough money to actually play like another week or something like that. But I was like, okay, it's done. It's like, really? It sounds like
Already?
garbage. Yeah. So.
But that's the money game, baby.
Yeah,
boy.
but-
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like
but to
maybe
be
we
fair,
just didn't
though,
have the
it's
money.
all you got to look at everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just the studio or the people. Like, it's all you got to look at yourself. You got to reflect on it.
For
And
sure.
I think that out of those experiences, you can always there's opportunities.
Yeah.
That's what I call them. Is like you just look at the opportunities and just try to
Funny,
make them
yeah.
better
For
the
sure.
next time.
Yeah.
Man, I gotta say at my job, anytime you're fucking up, that's what they say. You know, we have some opportunities. Be
It's like,
better
come
at
on,
what
come
you
on.
do.
You know my job calls
You
it
got
calls coaching opportunities. Like,
Yeah.
coaching, okay.
I can tell that we all work for some corporate bullshit. So yeah, that's where I got the word from. But I mean, it makes sense.
It does, man. Like you have the opportunity to fix things.
But I
Yeah.
do see us in regards to the recording process. We're kind of getting it down.
Yeah,
Because
it's a lot easier now.
It's a lot easier
Yeah.
because a lot was very, for me personally, it was kind of anxious. I was
Yeah.
it would get anxiety,
Yeah.
especially because it reminded me of like being in marching band and shit. And your band
Everything's so
like,
scrutinized.
exactly. Your band just like play your part now by
Yeah.
yourself with the click track, and you're like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's just like if that intensity plus like there's money going into it, and it's just so much that you have to put in your head,
Right.
time ticking,
Yeah,
and
tell me
then
about
just
it.
like, but I guess finally now we're kind of getting I guess the most.
Well, I do think like we were sort of too perfectionist or expecting too much. Maybe like in every regard, like quality wise, like level wise,
Quality-wise.
like I wasn't that good, like everything like you said, like it wasn't there yet.
It was
Right.
And we've improved, but I do think if we wouldn't have had that expectation, we probably would have had a couple of releases by now.
Yeah.
Not the best quality,
Not the
but
best
we'd have
quality.
something
Right.
that probably be a little further ahead.
That said,
we are
though,
now.
I think that everything happens for a reason, and I don't want there to be. I'm glad that we don't have all this. Other than like the demos, we don't have all these subpar releases. Like
Yeah,
whenever
for
we
sure.
actually do release something, it's like it's going to be as close to how we how we want it. Like, and we spent time working on it, so
For
there's
sure.
really no excuse at that point. And that's not, any offense to anybody else who's done anything. Like, it's just everybody. You can't compare yourself to others. Like, everybody works at their own pace.
Yeah, I have a lot of trouble with that.
Everybody,
I
like,
compare myself all the time.
That's what the world is, man. With social media, that's all we see. That's
Dude,
all
I
we do is
hate
social
compare.
media,
And
yeah.
You only see these
You
little
know,
bits of
that's
people's
it.
lives, and you
That's
just
it.
immediately draw these conclusions
it.
that they're
Yep.
perfect and.
Yep. And you may not think that you're doing it, but each
Yeah,
scroll and you see
subconsciously,
it,
just-
dude,
yeah.
you see it, and it gets in you, man. It does. It so does, and you can't get away with it unless you just put your phone down.
You could be doing so many
It's crazy.
things well, but you just see like something and you're like, oh man.
Yeah, as I
I
say,
wanna-
there's
I gotta
always
play
somebody
that.
better than you, and if
Yeah,
you look
for
at that
sure.
person,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm inferior.
Yeah.
That,
Like,
yeah.
instantly, you're just like, fuck. Yeah. Yeah.
So where did y'all record your first EP? On Spotify, I see you have Godot, the new single from last year, and then a 2016 EP.
So
Well,
yeah,
those are
that
his
is just
demos.
me, just
Yeah.
demoing
Oh,
the
okay,
song
okay.
and stuff.
Cool. That sounds.
But we didn't have anything out, and
Yeah.
we were always hitting walls. Like we got a new, like when the lineup was full, and then somebody like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't play it, or oh, I had an emergency, I can't do it, or oh, I thought I liked it, but I actually don't have time, or whatever the fucking reason was. And always hitting these walls. So I was like, you know what? Like we have to move forward somehow.
Mainly with bass is
And-
what.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause-
And I was like, you know what? Like, I can't. Like, mentally, I was like, I cannot remain in the shadows longer than this. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, we decided on a collection of songs and just put it up there. And surprisingly, I mean, I know they're pretty shitty quality, but how far they've taken us, like, I'm super grateful for the response that they
That's
had.
amazing.
Obviously, compared to the response we've had with the single that we put out, like, it's nothing. But
Yeah.
it really, I mean, people were like, "Oh shit, I really like it." I was like, "Really?
That's
It's
cool.
recorded on a fucking laptop." I
Yeah.
mean, they're not bad,
Yeah.
but
But we
Yeah,
hustled
it's
them.
cool,
And
yeah.
we did. That's for sure. Yeah.
And it got us to the point where we're like, there's enough people that like this. Maybe we should really get the lineup down 100%. Because around that time, we were cycling through bases.
Yeah,
So
it
we're
was
just like, fuck, we have to, like, we can't really promote this demo
Yeah, so
EP.
every time we would play, it's like we kind of take off, and then someone disappeared. It's like, all right, disappear
Yeah,
for like
well,
2-3
bass.
months, find someone, start playing again, then fucking disappear again. So I think like that's when we were like, okay, let's put this out. It doesn't matter, like just fucking so we
Yeah.
can plant ourselves like, hey, we are here, you know.
Yeah.
It was just a
That
mixture
sucks,
of, people we would pay to play, just a session player, or just like he said, people would cycle through. And I sure at one point it was kind of laughable because, we'd cycle through so many people, and This dude was like, he's like, man, he's like, maybe you need to tone down the bass lines. They're a little too complex.
Yeah, it's too complex for these. 'Cause we would go there and it'd be like a new person in, and we're like, and he goes like, this is the bass line, and blah 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 blah, transition, and then we go 1, 2, 3, and then not even like a minute in or 30 seconds in, we have to stop and break it down again. It's just like.
Well, I feel like that's how it is with any instrument in any song. Like it's not. There's not many people that are like, okay, I got it. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I guess we're
It
talking Paul,
became a
dude.
joke at that
Yeah, it
point.
became a
It's
joke,
like,
but-
nobody can fucking do it.
Paul did it though.
Yeah.
As I was saying, Paul did it. Paul made it
Yeah,
work.
he can, man.
Dude,
He
Paul
actually came
sounds
in like
great,
3 days later,
Great tone.
and he was like fucking ready to go.
Yeah.
Like as I heard the EP, I'm
That's
fucking
great, man.
let's do it.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's fucking.
I was like, shit.
That's,
All right.
that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Feel it, you feel it, man.
Yeah.
What's some of y'all's individual influences? We'll start with you, Nico.
Me, it varies a lot from time to time. I like LCD Sound System a lot. I like Death Grips. Yeah, the whole New York like music scene. I was never big into the Ramones. I like Television. But yeah, pretty much anything from New York, really.
Really?
Regina Spektor, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, like all that shit. Also, like one of the reasons we bonded was because he's from Argentina. In case it wasn't, yeah.
Yeah.
Dope, man.
Uh,
That's cool.
There's this band from Argentina called Soda Stereo, and they're like the biggest probably biggest South American band,
Yeah.
rock band at
Yeah.
least.
When the lead singer died, it was a national tragedy.
Which was like sort of recent. I was like 5 years. He was in a coma for like
2013.
what,
He was in a
4
coma
years
for a
or some
long
shit
time.
like that.
Oh
He
my
got in a
God.
coma, what, 2000?
But it's like an amazing band. They were so far ahead of their time. I mean, they were like sampling, they were like looping shit, and
They're like
they
the
were.
Spanish Cure.
Yeah.
They were. I mean, it's really amazing. Even if you don't
amazing.
speak Spanish,
Yeah.
like just listening to the music, it's
Yeah.
mind blowing. And that's like one of the reasons we actually bonded, and we're like, oh shit, we
That's
should
so
actually
cool,
play
man.
together. But yeah, they're a big influence.
That's badass.
Yeah, I guess that's where I stand.
For mine, it would be Soda Stereo, because my parents just fucking blasted that shit all the time. My
That's
parents
so
came
cool,
up with
man.
that shit.
That's
That, Phoenix, French band. I love them. They're like the good definition of a good pop band.
You know, I'll be honest. I didn't know they were French.
They're
I
French.
didn't know they were French till
Yeah, when they
maybe
sing, it's pretty English.
Fun
3
fact,
months
But
ago,
when they
maybe.
talk, yeah.
The
right?
guitarist, him and one of the members for Daft Punk, they used to be in a band together. When they were
Really?
Daisy, no, that's not Daisy. Daisy, the band here. Darlin, that's what it is.
Darlin?
Yeah, Darling. That's the band they were in.
The band they were in.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
been
dude.
brand, okay.
Yeah.
But they grew up together, so like they grew up together, and they were like, my band's Phoenix, and I'm
Yeah.
doing this electronic to
That's
Daft Punk,
so crazy.
and Daft Punk
man.
blew up. But Phoenix is one of them for sure. Interpol. Every time I go before I play a show, turn on the bright lights.
Dude, I can't get into it. Well,
Boom.
I've
I
been
don't
getting
know
into
too
it
much of
lately,
their
but it's
stuff.
like, it's hard.
It just reminds me of being 9.
Depressed.
Yeah. Being
Oh.
9.
It's the same thing, right?
It's like being 9 and just like flipping the channels and then stumbling on like MTV, and then that
Yeah.
song comes on. Like
Yeah.
the first song is PDA. I was like,
Okay.
the music video was like, oh, this is weird, but the song sounds cool. I don't know, but Interpol for sure, and a lot of hip hop.
Yeah.
I really love hip hop. MF Doom,
Okay.
Verbs. He's like a weird guy from the UK.
Okay.
Skepta, all those weird shit.
Dude, I've been jamming like Earl Sweatshirt a lot lately.
Yeah.
Young Ma?
Young Ma, I don't know.
No.
Young Ma, I heard of Young Ma.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just love hip hop. It's just I've been on a hip hop binge.
Yeah.
I like SoundCloud rappers just because
sure.
they pump me up.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, if you think about it in like decade ways, I mean, hip hop is kind of like the rock star of nowadays.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah,
Talk about that all the
That's what
time.
it is. So it's
The rockstar
gotta be.
rock, like, dream is dead.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta
It is,
be a
man.
rapper now if you
That's
want to
it.
live that life.
Post
Yeah.
Malone, right? He was in Deep Ellum playing songs, and now what is he doing? He's out in California.
Drinking lean.
Yeah. And then he still gets on and
Alright.
plays
Yeah,
acoustic on
dude.
some songs because that's his roots, you know. But he changed and developed and whatever. So yeah, it's so insane that times have changed. You know?
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
time, big time.
I think the SoundCloud rap movement is the equivalent of pop punk
Yeah.
in 2000s.
Yeah. I
It's
can
just
see
like
that.
all the old heads are like, this sounds like shit. Like, what are you doing? But in reality, it's like,
It's just a new sound, yeah.
It is, man. It truly is. Yeah, you see like these videos that you're like, this has this many plays. It's like, yeah, like billions of plays, and it's something like that's just kind of off the wall. It's like kind of
Yeah.
like I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
it
It's
is.
just kind of like this is this many plays. It's not that much going on, but yeah. Your influences?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess it varies. So there's stuff that today I'm jamming, but if we're talking roots though, like when I first got started, it was like Clash, Sex Pistols,
Okay, cool.
a lot of hardcore punk, Minor Threat, all that stuff, and 80s hardcore. But then probably when I was maybe about 15, I started getting into like the Smiths, Secure, new wave, post punk, and then also my parents were really into like, I guess this was more. It didn't really resonate with me until a little later on, but they were always into like folk rock, like Birds, Eagles, and then they like Motown a lot.
Yeah, Motown.
So all that stuff didn't really resonate with me until I was probably a little bit closer out of high school. But I've always liked English stuff, Beatles, Rolling Stones, Stone Roses, all that, psychedelics. Pink Floyd, I was super into Pink Floyd as a teenager. Interpol. But yeah, I was really into just the hardcore and punk stuff throughout, my teenage years. But as I got into my early 20s, it just started to kind of fade out, and I really, started learning like, Johnny Marr, again, like, going back to like the psychedelic stuff. So at this point now, I always like to think of like, it's like channeling that punk energy and aggression, but through a different lens, like, because again, like I said earlier, like as cool as punk is, it's not musically challenging, but when it is though, that's when I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
Because anybody, again, no offense to like the 3-chord philosophy, like that's what gets people started, but you're only going to be stuck there for so long.
Right.
So, but yeah, I would say my biggest influence would probably be like Johnny Marr from the Smiths. That's what really inspired me to like actually want to like play. And he made me like obsessed with like guitar culture and like just obsessed with like guitars in general.
For sure, yeah, he has amazing tone.
Oh, yeah.
Very iconic.
Yeah.
Guitarist, yeah, for sure.
About
That's awesome.
Go. My turn. Well,
Say yo.
I don't discriminate. Mine's actually very broad. It actually changes. Anything that I listen to that I find inspiring, like for like a month or for a certain amount of time, like that's what I listen. That's what I'm into, and that I started late, so it wasn't until like after middle school until I actually started listening to what my parents would call secular music. So I was, my parents were really strict, so it was always either some sort of church music or Christian bands. But early on, since I skated, I got into like most of my music inspirations then, or how I found music, was through skate videos. Through Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. So like any like they always had like a killer soundtrack on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Yes, they do.
I would always just jam those. So
Some iconic songs.
yeah. So when from hip hop to rock to just psychedelic stuff. But yeah, man, I'll it could be classical. It could be inspiring. And I'll just dig into that for a while.
That's awesome.
You can't really put your finger on something that like inspires you. You can't really explain
Yeah.
that. Like it just kind of draws you in. Something about it that's
Right.
art, man. That's what's cool.
Absolutely.
I grew up the same way. Super religious parents, secular music, man.
Right.
That was the term. Nobody's.
Yeah.
I say that
Really?
and people are like, "What's secular?
Yeah.
What is that?" It's like, not Christian.
That's also
Not Christian. That's what I mean.
That's also how my parents were kind of like that too, but at a certain point they just couldn't control it. I was just like, I'm gonna fucking listen to punk, and I mean they yelled and fucking screamed about it, but eventually as I got older they just kind of just gave up.
Yeah.
Man, I remember just like listening to so much Christian rock, I'm just like, yeah, it's cool as fuck. And then like getting to my friend's car or something, and he's got like Blink 182. I'm like, dude, what is this? What is this?
He doesn't
This
say
sounds so cool.
Jesus Christ one single time in the entire song.
He doesn't say praise.
He doesn't
Turn
even
the
imply
shit
that
off,
he
yeah.
sings about God.
Speaking of hip hop, I used to be, in addition to what I said to you, whenever I was a teenager, because I lived near Houston before I moved up here, I was like that whole like Mike Jones and Swisha House thing was
yeah,
going on.
Chocolate
So I
Supreme.
remember like getting like in middle school, like it was like Mike Jones, like you'd get that shit on like a burnt CD before the album was even fucking released. It was just like the
Off
mixtape.
the line wire.
So that stuff was really big down there. So that also, So again, it didn't resonate with me at first, but that was my introduction to like hip hop was through like DJ Screw and Mike Jones and Swishahouse and all of that. So and when it was all popping during that time, it was really interesting because again, it didn't hit me right off the bat, but I knew subconsciously though it definitely I guess spoke to me. Because I did end up, liking it. I got really into DJ Screw, and I always saw DJ Screw as like psychedelic rap, almost, and almost like a precursor to like the vaporwave, C-punk, witch house or whatever you want to call it, like movement. Because I mean, he was doing that like 20 years before people were doing vaporwave or C-punk, which is basically the same thing, just taking the Muzak or the fucking. Like the smooth jazz and just putting it through a pitch shifter.
Okay.
Get, like, little warp sound or something.
Yeah, like taking elevator music or supermarket music and just throwing it through this fucking, changing the pitch on it.
That's wild. That's wild.
That is wild.
That is pretty neat.
Oh man, I had a question in mind. Slipped through. I'm feeling a little under the weather. Sorry about that.
Or you're really stoned.
Or I'm really stoned. You may do you guys? Oh yeah, that's what you guys won. Best album, or what'd you guys win at the Central?
No, we won best rock band and best song.
Best song and best rock act.
Yeah.
So what was the song?
Good
day.
job. They only sing.
Cool. Yeah.
That
That sounds
amazing.
great. Though.
Yeah,
That's super
appreciate
cool,
that.
man.
Before we were nominated, we also made the list of the top 100 songs. That song made top 100 of 2018.
Yeah.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah,
like
man.
23rd.
25th?
Yeah, we're like 22nd or 23rd.
20 something.
Kind of goes back, like you don't want to release a bunch of subpar stuff, but like the one thing you did release, it did
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, I mean now we can retire.
Yeah, man, that's it.
Sure, yeah.
Five-time
Yeah.
Grammy nominated Kyoto Lo-Fi.
Only one song. That's it.
The one hit wonder.
Like those when you buy the singles and it comes with like 7 remixes.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Oh, gosh,
That's
yeah.
gonna be it.
That's the whole album.
Video
Yeah.
Oprah's cover.
Yeah.
Little John featuring Little John.
Yeah.
So where are y'all on releases now? Then you're still. Do you have plans to go record? Do you
We're
have an
actually
album?
recording.
Yeah, we're recording, so we're not setting a release date. We're not trying to do that prematurely, but we're on the right pace, and at this point, it's really just other than tracking some other stuff, we're just entering like post-production.
The sprinkling of the.
Very nice.
Yeah, I actually finished vocals yesterday.
So what do y'all mind getting into like who y'all recording with and
Sure,
how it's
yeah,
going
yeah.
and everything?
Greg
Malka Vasiljevic.
Muslakovic.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, how do you know how to say it? I don't know how to say it.
It's
Muslakovic.
Muslakovic.
Muslakovic?
I call it Greg Wasowski.
I call him Greg Gregorio Jebediah. Anything
No,
with a
but
G.
he runs
Yeah.
he runs Blue 13.
Blue 13.
He's just getting it off the
Yeah,
ground,
he's
and
getting
it's
off the ground.
it's really
Cool.
off his house, kind of like the setup that you have.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, the difference with him is, and again, not to downplay anybody else, but like he nitpicks who he works with, and it's like, okay, well, he was actually a bassist for us before. That's how we met.
Oh,
We
wow.
needed a bassist.
He was our
And
session bassist, so we had a bass.
First he was a
Yeah.
bassist, then he was like I'm actually moving away from bands, and then he just became a session bassist.
Wow.
And
okay, wow.
he used to play with
He's what you
cover
call a
band.
virtuoso.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that
He's a
motherfucker
pro,
is
yeah.
a guns for hire. He's like,
Yeah.
dude, Expendables.
He
of
was
bass.
actually one that actually heard the song. I was like, all right, I got it. Heard it
Yeah.
once. And it's like, yeah, I got
That's
it.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're recording with him, and he really does care about the music.
Yeah.
I mean, that's again not to downplay other people, but I realize you have to hustle, you know. But he's in the stage where he's building his portfolio, and like everything in it matters. Like it's not about numbers right now; it's about
Yeah,
quality.
exactly. Yeah.
So, and he's recorded a couple bands that have all been played on what's it called all 105 or some shit like that.
103.7.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah,
and they're all been played on the radio.
Very
So like he's constantly putting out like quality stuff, and
That's
he
awesome.
cares about it, and he's like, well, how can we make this better?
Yeah.
So it really shows, and that's really one of the reasons why we're like, all right, this is who we're sticking with. Like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
cares. It's like, well, what about if we try this, or this
Yeah.
might sound better if we do this, as opposed to like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like just turn that pedal on,
Yeah.
or yeah, sure, whatever you want,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
He'll push you.
Yeah.
He'll tell you your left hand's too sloppy.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah,
it
you
tight.
suck. Get a day
tight.
job. You know.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
You'll be like, get it tight. That's not your best take. Or he'll see like, that's a take, dude.
Yeah.
If you want to keep going, we can, but that's a take.
Wow.
And
That's
he's
probably
just
it's
like,
cool that he's picky. That's why
Yeah.
he's only gonna take in the people he really cares about and wants to.
Right, right, and I believe like at least at this point in his career, like that's how you have to be.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
instead of just like, oh, I recorded these 3 shitty ass bands.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I don't want to fucking work with you. Like,
Yeah.
my shit's gonna sound like that. Like, I don't want to do
That's your
that.
portfolio.
Yeah,
as you build
exactly. But his I mean, the response that we've had from the single is like, even when because we recorded the single, and like I have no recording experience, like actually recording with a producer and stuff like that. So after we recorded the single, we went to somebody else, other producer, and we showed them like, hey, this is us. We were trying to record just to like shop around different producers just to get more experience, and they were actually like, oh shit, like that single is really good. Like who recorded it? And it's like, so just that response from an actual producer,
Yeah.
being like, holy fuck,
Yeah.
dude, like yeah, they're recognizing that he's getting
Yeah,
some work
he's-
done.
yeah.
So
He's definitely in doubt. The Metroplex is best kept secret, I think, at this
Yeah.
point.
yeah, we're just gonna keep it a secret, so
Yeah,
no more
that's
information.
awesome. Yeah, exactly.
His name is
until
James.
yeah.
not Greg.
But because he's like a
Can you,
virtuoso.
edit that out of the video.
Just bleep it. Just bleep it. Yeah.
But because
Yeah,
he's
we're
so
gonna bleep
good,
it.
because he's so good, it's like forced us to play. That's why it's become easier, because working with him, it's like we've taken all this time to scrutinize everything. So now we're better players ourselves, and it's also it makes recording easier now because we know what his expectations are,
Yeah.
and we kind of get into a workflow when we get over there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just nice having someone that actually cares.
Yeah.
Like
Sure.
being like, hey, this sounds like shit. Like actually rework it or come back when you actually can't play it right. Instead of other people's like, oh, that sounds like shit. Like record it. You know, like that
But
sounds
the-
terrible. Hit record. Go. You know.
The one thing I do appreciate about Greg is time.
I appreciate
Is-
everything about Greg. Everything about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Dude, I appreciate it so
The
much. Like
main
one
thing.
time, like me and Paul were recording, and then his girlfriend or wife, I don't know, maybe you want to bleep that part out. But she comes in, and she was like, "Y'all hungry?" I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And then, dude, we come out of the room, and she had this like fucking steak dinner with like fucking a casserole of veggies
Like
and
tomato,
wine and
cheese.
shit, and
Oh,
then it was a
man.
dessert. That
And
dessert,
I wasn't
man.
there.
Holy
And you-
fuck.
It was like the 5-star.
Dude, it was
restaurant
fucking great. It was like,
dinner.
yeah,
I got a
it
hot
was
pocket when I went to
fucking-
record drums.
Yeah, dude, that shit was amazing.
Great.
That's-
dude.
yeah.
That's fucking dope, man.
But he gives time. You actually get time to. It's like it's kind of like I feel like when you work on something, you listen to it too many times, that you're no longer listening to the details. It
Yeah.
just becomes a blur.
Yeah, you have the rest
So,
of the years.
especially with Godot, like tracking it, it pretty much took us 6 months, close to a year, to just record Godot and
Okay.
to sprinkle that.
Yeah, but that's our fault.
That's
We
our
weren't
fault,
making
but
time
in-
for it.
Yeah.
But in general, we had time. We
Not
had
so
time
much
to
to
like
record.
That's what we record, but it was post production.
Right.
That's the part that matters.
Yeah.
The tracking is as important, but the post production is what can make the song go from here to here, or from here to here.
Yeah.
Very true.
It's so that's the one thing that I guess we've learned the recording tracking process, and now we're slowly learning the post production side where maybe we should throw in a tambourine here, or like
Yeah.
change your vocals here, or throw this effect here, or some weird shit. Just because it's more exploring, and also we get to take our time and just like, I'm not gonna listen to the bounce track for a week, and then I'm gonna listen to it again, and now I catch something different, and maybe throw something.
Well, now we've also disciplined ourselves too, because now we've gotten so much recorded within the span of like 2 to 3 months, because we're not doing as many shows. We're spending more time on the record.
Yeah, that was a big problem. Like, we were taking like in so many shows.
Which isn't bad, because
No,
we
it's definitely not.
have a presence, but
Like at the beginning, it's not bad, but
Yeah.
like, like when we're recording or trying to
Yeah,
record,
it's-
we were just saying yes to everything. And
Yeah,
yeah,
so
Gabe
we were
was the
neg-
main was like, we gotta stop like accepting
Yeah,
all
and
these.
he-
we were
things.
neglecting not our duties, but like our obligations to make a record. Like, we just took way too long, because we go over there, track it, and then just play a shit ton of shows over the next few months, and it's like we don't have time to like get back with the producer.
And it usually happens like that. We're like, okay, we have March empty. Let's just get everyone in to record, and then like, oh, someone hit us up for a show. It's like, okay, it's just one. Okay, fine. And then you're like, oh, we got another one. It's like, okay, well, it's 2 weeks. Okay, fine, we'll take it. And then like next thing you know, you have like 5 shows in 1 month. It's like, fuck, and we do this all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, god damn it.
Sure.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm always the one that's like, hey, like, we still got to record. We still need to finish. Like, let's not take too many shows.
Yeah.
Like, we all agreed that we're not gonna take any more shows. And they're like, hey, how about
Yeah,
this
even
show?
Gabe at one point, he was like pissed off. He's like, I thought we were fucking saying no to everything. Like, why are we even asking? Like, we would just decline. Which, I mean, that is what we should have done, but we still took shows.
I love performing.
Yeah, he's the one that was like, well, okay, you guys gotta meet me in the middle. Like, I want to play,
I
like,
wanna
what,
play
2
shows.
shows
It's
a
not that
month and 1 show a month?
It's the shows is for me it would be like, the show is you're selling the car. Like, this is the car. You want the car?
It's true.
You want to buy the car?
Yeah.
Buy the CD.
It's true.
You know what I mean? But it's also learning to balance that out. And also,
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the recording. I used to hate recording. So as soon as they mention we're gonna record somewhere, I'd be like, let's get a show. You know what I mean? Just because in my head it's just like I don't want to fucking record. I'm scared.
Yeah.
But now it's like I love it. It's
Yeah, and
become
we also
fun.
recorded, like, one of the producers that we tried to work with, we recorded at Dreamy Life.
Oh yeah.
And honestly, the experience of going there, recording, was, in my opinion, was beautiful. Like, actually going there and, like, I don't know, like, the mentality when we went in there, it was
Yeah.
really chill.
Yeah.
The vibe was cool, like,
Sure.
everything. It was really good. Like,
It's a dope place.
for me, mentally, as far as the recording process goes, it was kind of, like, refreshing everything.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
For sure.
I mean, unfortunately, we decided to move forward with a different producer, but just that experience was really neat. I was happy that we decided to go with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we moved ahead and decided to finish the record with Greg.
But it was the
And-
first time I would say we were all locked in to saying like this is the recording process, and we've all gone through it so many times already
Very cool.
that we do come
Yeah, it
here,
was like a
do
good
work.
vibe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good vibe. It's just it wasn't more like it was more like let's get
It's
shit
a
done.
good studio.
Yeah.
And Britt does a really good job over there. And again, it's not about comparing yourself to others, but there did come a point where you have to like realize it's like, okay, like we do play a lot of shows, we have a presence, like we're kind of getting up there in popularity, or people know us, but at the same time though, it's like, all of your peers are, passing you by because they have releases. And again,
it's like, that's how it should be. At least I see other bands locally, and they're like, they have a demo, or not a demo, but they have a CD, then they start playing, then they get a little popular, then they record, set something out, and then they go back and play, and that's like, it works. That's how it should be, but we totally did not fucking do
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
you understand, our
it's very
situation
easy to
was-
spread yourself thin.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, true.
yeah,
We didn't have like the whole lineup, so we went through a bunch of walls and shit. But I mean, that is, in my mind, like that's if somebody asked me, like, hey, how do you get a band like up and going? Even though our band's not really like up and
Going.
you know. But I mean, that's what from like seeing it happen. Get a CD, fucking record your album, play out until you fucking get tired, and record your next song. It's like that's how it should be. It's like, oh, but you didn't do that shit. It's like, yeah, because we didn't fucking know what we were doing.
Yeah, but
Everybody starts somewhere, right?
everybody starts
Yeah,
somewhere.
Everybody
yeah.
has their own path too. But I mean, y'all are taking it to this more modern approach with just a single. A lot of people are just dropping singles because you can not only promote it better, but you can add so much to it: artwork, music video, all to one. Instead of giving someone, boom, 12 songs. It's like,
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
true.
So
Yeah.
singles are a quick. I mean, and look what y'all's singles doing. I mean, y'all are reaping the rewards from that. I mean, y'all have an EP, but y'all just released one single, and people are feeding on that one single. And
Yeah, I
they
mean,
beat
if
on
we
that
do
one single
just
and that
singles, we
single.
have enough for like 2 years.
Exactly right. Yes,
Man, we don't have to record
12
again.
years.
Hip hop guys. That's what
real.
they do.
That's
It's
where things are
modern,
going.
but
It's
it
crazy.
also kind of harkens back to even like old school rock
Yeah,
and roll. Like you
yeah.
have a single and then the album, and
The
then
45,
sometimes
45,
Yeah.
two sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
because an album, I'm a strong proponent of an album, but it is
Mhm.
a lot to digest.
It is, but on both ways, because now it's like playlists. If you can get one of those songs on a playlist, well, with an album you get 12 chances or 10 chances, whatever. But
Yeah.
with a song, it is tough. But if you get on a playlist, man,
Yeah, Spotify
Spotify,
changed freaking
Spotify,
much.
changed the game.
Yeah.
I think albums to me I hold them in a little more high regard.
Oh, of
They're a little more
course.
sacred because
Yes.
albums mean a lot to me. So it's like I want it to be right. I don't want to just
I
you know
agree.
shit out a fucking album and it's like, okay, here just for the sake of making an album.
exactly.
I want it to be right.
And
Oh, you're saying?
no, I just like when you're recording and you're trying to put together an album, you record, or maybe you have like 24 songs or something and you want to get down to 12, but most of the time I feel that same way, like just try and figure out what do we all agree is like our sickest fucking song we can just hit people with, and then you focus on I lost my thought.
was it like recording multiple songs
Having
versus
bangers, 12 bangers.
bangers?
Was
Yeah.
that one single
Yeah.
song?
Oh yeah. Writing 24 songs and taking it down to 12 and then.
Oh
choosing.
yeah, no, like concept albums. I just feel
Yes,
like when people
yes,
do
yeah.
like 12 tracks, it's just when you really have a 12-track story to tell.
Right.
Like you have
Make
something
it
that
that
you're really,
cohesive.
yeah. Instead of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a first band's album, like if you just all the first songs you guys wrote, that could be a pretty mixed
Very
bag.
diverse. Yeah.
You
it
know,
could be.
yeah, it could be diverse, but I
And
don't
that's
know.
actually
then
what
you
we're
kinda
kind
get
of
your
known
style.
for. Like our sound is pretty all over the place.
Yeah.
Which at first I thought it was like
It's not bad.
gonna
man. I think it's
detract
cool.
from us,
Yeah.
but I mean a lot of people seem to be sort of into it.
Yeah.
Just,
For a bit, we were trying to do just garage rock, which is like fucking. For me, I was like, I'm just tired of all this distortion. I just want some style. I want dynamics. I want a melody. I just want feel good shit. You know what I mean?
For sure, man.
Like with garage rock, it has power, and I love that. But if you could translate the power from that into like the melody, so the melody hits hard, but it's just like the same kind of like,
Right.
you know what I mean? But
For sure.
it's
Garage rock
fucking.
has that
But you also like find yourself, because in previous projects I found myself recording 3 albums, and they're all been released and nothing gets traction on them.
Yeah.
But that's just because you're just trying to kind of, you're saturating the albums. Like you're just like, oh, album here, album here, album here. And now you have like 24 songs in the span of 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do now?
It overwhelms people. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to listen to that
Yeah.
album. Even though
that's
you can
true.
just listen
yeah,
to one
yeah.
song.
Even
It's like,
subconsciously, like
Yeah.
that does kind of detract from
It
this.
is. Yeah. It's nuts.
The wanting to hear that band. You know? It's
Yeah.
like I don't want to go through the entire discography.
And
Just
just
like
like
you
you
said
said
with
with
something.
like the culture now, it's like
Yeah.
you know, because of hip hop and dance music, like people just only gravitate towards like playlist or like a single. There's not a lot of like, sure, albums sell, but I think it's also a generational thing. You know, like it's like if you're younger, you know, that's probably what's going to attract you. Given there's exceptions, but
Oh yeah. For sure.
I mean, I grew up with albums, so
Yeah.
I love. There's albums that I know and love, and I'll always know and love. And I as a person, I'm open to albums, but you
Yeah.
know, people who are a little bit younger might not be.
It is very true, man. Changing times. Changing times.
Let's see. Some pet peeves as musicians. Like playing shows, recording music. What's some
As
pet,
a pet peeves?
Yeah.
Parking.
You're just
There's
talking
no
toxic
fucking
shit.
parking.
Fucking.
No
There's
parking?
fucking parking.
Parking for
Oh,
musicians.
You know, it's like okay,
That's
if
a
I,
good one.
Wait, what did you say?
there's no parking,
That's
and
a
yeah.
good one.
usually if I ever had if I've ever quoted anything, it's usually like a regurgitation or just stealing it from somebody else. But the one original thing I've always said is that like, as a musician, like you have to deal with like the drugs, the alcohol, the egos, like the relationships with people, like just the existential crises that you have. But I think the worst thing about being a musician is the fucking lack of parking when you get to the fucking gig.
I
Like,
can't imagine going to play a gig in a city you haven't played yet though. And then
trying
you're
to
like,
find
how the fuck
where
do
to
you know,
go.
then
Yeah.
that's even more
Dude,
pain.
That shit
That
sucks.
shit
Uh,
sucks.
Yeah.
Like Austin, and it's such a freaking.
Yeah.
You're playing locally. It's like,
Yeah,
Hey,
you-
Deep Ellum,
you're not
like,
paid and
yeah.
you have to find parking and pay for parking.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
like, dude, really? Like, at least fucking cover more parking.
Dude, I've carried
Yeah.
my drums a block or two.
Bro,
Yeah.
that's my
So-
pet
same
peeve.
here, yeah.
Ah, fucking carrying drums.
Yeah,
Like being a
Southside.
drummer is cool. Like when someone's like, "Oh my god, you drum!" Like
Yeah.
fucking sick as fuck.
Little
Yeah,
do you
dude, try to
know.
carry all that shit. Bro, not even carry that. Try to make sure you got all your shit together, because not only do you have a fucking bass pedal, you have the clamp for the thing, the little washers, and you gotta make sure everything's like doesn't fall. Because if you miss one little thing, you're like, "Hey, dude, can I borrow?" You're like,
Yeah.
and just like you feel weird. Like, I'm sorry.
I'm really particular too about my setup. So some people be like, "I'll help you with this." They'll just break it all
Dude,
down.
that's,
like,
that's the
"Oh."
way he is. I was
Dude.
like, dude, mark it. Like, mark it for me so I can set it, like, put a fucking Sharpie mark so I can set it up for you.
One time,
It's like, no, it just, it has to be me.
but also I find it zen, dude. I find
Yeah.
a zen where I'm just like, it's like the song is, the band is like, we have 2 more songs left. I'm like, that's my cue. And I go,
Yeah.
just like, nah, 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 just
Yeah.
like listening to them jam and just like preparing
And
myself.
I'm in the background, hurry
mentally.
the fuck
Hurry
up.
the fuck up. Do you need help? Or like, I remember one time someone helped me put down. So my cymbal stand, they put it down.
Oh no.
They took everything and
Oh,
they
yeah,
separated
exactly.
it, and they
They
took the
don't
rubbers
know.
from the bottom.
Who
And
knows?
I'm like, I helped you. I'm like, you literally just fucking took apart the whole stand.
This guy.
That is
Did
one
you do
thing.
that?
No.
No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
I have a
was
story.
about
It's
to
the same
give
thing. People helping you out with your gear. It's the nicest thing anybody can
Yeah.
ask for, but always say no.
Yeah.
Always say, dude, I had the same thing. I had a vintage amp. The head fits inside the cab like a piggyback amp, and you're supposed to flip these little tabs to keep the head underneath like the speakers inside the whole cab. So dude's, hey man, I'll help you. I'm like, nah, that's cool. He's like, nah, that's cool, man, it's cool. I'm like, all right, cool, here we go. Well, he set it down once we got outside where he thought my car was. And I'm like, no, I'm actually over here. So he set it down. He's like, oh, okay. We picked it back up and we're walking, and I'm about to my car, and I hear "Ka-doo-doo-doo-doo," and tubes fall out. My head fell out. My head fell out with the tubes and everything, and it was never the same. I had to sell the amp.
Did you kill him?
I wanted to.
Dude.
He's like, dude, I'm so sorry.
You know, they're always like drunk too.
Yeah.
Oh.
The only time
It was
I'll
an
allow
older guy
it,
too. So
the
I'm
only
like,
time
okay,
I'll
this
allow
guy-
it is if it's like another guitar player
Exactly.
who I
Yeah.
know is legit.
Yes,
I
exactly.
trust them to carry my shit.
Man,
You gotta check the credentials before they help you.
yeah. Gear awareness.
Who are you?
Yeah.
What do you play?
See your
Yeah,
gear card.
your Guitar Center membership.
Yeah. Where's your gear card?
Hey, even then, I'm gonna throw shade like Guitar
Certified?
Center.
Yeah.
That's not.
That should be
yeah,
required
that's not
now.
credentials for me.
You definitely need a gear card now.
Seriously.
Gear card.
Seriously. Yeah. Gear card? Yeah, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Remember I saw you drop that
Fuck
snare
off.
and I took that gear card. Yeah.
So true.
What about most embarrassing mistakes on stage?
There's so many.
Oh, dude, yeah. I got,
There's
probably the worst one. I actually played Godot for I think the first
First
time.
time.
It was a Me Motor Scooters
album
album
release.
release
Okay.
show.
Yeah.
And we opened for them.
Oh,
So it was like,
No, we were. Oh,
no,
really?
we opened. So it was
yeah.
like, boom, like, stack bill, fire, us. And then fucking me motor scooter, fire. And then we're like, we're going to play Godot. And then,
Well, the good
oh
thing is
my
that it wasn't the
God.
first song, but I started the wrong fucking chord.
In the wrong key.
Wrong key.
And like
Right.
everybody's looking at me is like, and I'm like,
Dude, I swear to God, I'm in my drums. And I'm like, wrong key. And then we look at each other because the bass line and tambourine goes in. We look at each other, and then, like, I guess we look, do you start? Do we start? And then I went, tambourine.
Hey, you have no key, bro. You have no key. You just keep
And then he
going.
goes, dun, 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 dun. And then I'm like, wrong key. Is it? I'm like, no. And then, it's like barely halfway through the song, he changed it. I was like, oh my God. Was it halfway through the verse or something?
it was halfway through the verse.
Oh my God. I was just like, have you ever like
Yeah,
gotten
Paul
so
walks up and I talked to him, like, dude, I fucked up. I was like, yeah, kill yourself. I'm like, fuck. That was pretty bad. That was
Actually, I
pretty
think
bad.
Newman and I gave him so much shit.
We
for,
gave him so
No,
much
but
shit.
I was like, I deserve that shit. That
Yeah,
I
dude.
totally trashed that, and that was my fault.
Yeah.
And it was
That
like,
was horrible.
like,
Yeah.
have you ever get that feeling when you fuck up on stage and your whole body just gets warm?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
warm. Dude.
Dude,
And
no,
you're like-
the opposite. Mine like
heat-
gets
like
cold.
a heat
Like,
flash.
No,
Yeah.
I get warm and just like,
Your balls
then
get
after
wet.
that, I was like,
Like,
okay, if I pull any shit like that again, like just fucking stop.
Yeah.
Like tell me, it's like no, let's fucking like stop. Like instead of going through the embarrassment of that shit. Like I would have been like, why didn't you fucking throw your drumstick at me? Like, yo, like
boy,
that's
we
fucking-
tried. I said wrong key.
No, well,
like 3
You
times.
said after the show you went up to him, was like, man, I fucked it up. He said what? He said,
He's like,
go
kill
kill
yourself.
yourself. He was like, yeah, we know.
It was like me and him staring at each other because we were just like, we both know if you and I go in, this song goes.
This song is going down.
I mean, I know I
That's
fucked up
great.
and it's all on me, but like, someone should have stopped me.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, I wasn't in my right mind. It was like, I mean, it's 3 guys. Like,
It just
obviously, y'all
happened-
knew
it
I
happened
was
so
fucking
fast.
up.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
just,
It
like,
happens so
processing
fast.
it.
Yeah, you're trying.
You're
Yeah,
like, oh,
exactly.
fuck.
By the
I
time
would've,
you process it, it's too late.
Yeah.
Like, I
Especially
mean,
on
there's
stage.
a point where you
Especially
can
on
like
stage.
stop the song and
Yeah.
just play it out. It's like, oh, did it sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, we're just like
Yeah,
testing
right.
levels.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you still don't come off as like fucking. What the fuck are you doing?
But till this day, he has not started it on the wrong key.
Oh yeah, I remember like
Yeah.
flashback that like
Yeah.
right before even today, like right before playing, it's like
Yeah.
Have you seen that,
Double
like
check.
that hamster with the PTSD? Every
Yeah,
time that song
that's
starts,
it.
it's
Flashes,
like,
yeah.
Vietnam and shit.
That's
I like play it softly to see if it's the right chord.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
all right, yeah.
Chord
Actually,
check.
I still do that all the
Yeah.
time. I'm like, is this right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's probably been the worst fuck up in the band
That's-
history. Yeah, that was
That's
the worst.
funny, man. And that's the first time y'all played that song?
Yeah.
I think it was
Yeah,
yeah.
that was like 2 years
After
ago.
recording it, or?
No,
No,
before.
no,
We're-
it was,
we're-
yeah, it was just ready for,
Guys,
for
We're
live.
still
Obviously
working
it
it out.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself, bro.
We thought it was. We're like, yeah, it's playable.
I mean, it was. I just fucked up.
Yeah.
It was. It was.
I think for me, it was the first Halloween at Armory. This at the Armory in Deep Ellum. It was like the first show that they did. It was the first show, and it was also on Halloween. And I remember me and him had gotten
Yeah,
back from
right back.
Austin not too long ago, and Nathan had given us a huge
Shrooms.
bag of fucking shrooms, some cubes that he pulled from. He had like a deer lease that he'd go out to, and he would just pick the cubes from the fucking shit. And I remember I was like, yeah, I'm gonna microdose, and I had no, other than just tripping, I didn't have an experience with it, so I just took a couple little caps. Because to me, that was microdosing.
You can't gauge mushrooms.
Exactly,
either,
yeah.
man.
I literally ate them right as we were setting up. I just ate them, and then right by the end of the set, like I just had to turn my back to the crowd because everything was just like
Wait, you
fucking
ate it
melted.
before, right before we played?
Right before.
I ate him at George's house. So when we started, that was that day.
No,
right?
No,
this is
that's
an
an
armory.
That's an Austin.
That
This
was
is
awesome.
Austin.
Yeah, I didn't remember.
Oh,
'cause I was
shit,
like,
okay,
I was
yeah,
like, by
yeah,
the time our set's done, they're gonna kick in. It's not gonna happen when we play.
Yeah.
But right, like last two songs, I was just like,
Feeling a little-
I couldn't do it. Like I literally could not face the crowd or even them. Like I was like, I just
against
had
the wall.
I was facing.
here.
I turned around and I was just having like an extra. It wasn't even about I was just on autopilot,
Yeah.
and even then I was probably fucking up, and I was just having like this existential crisis, like on stage, like in front of like a packed crowd. It was like Halloween. Everybody was in costumes. So it didn't.
Oh, yeah, it makes it
It
worse.
makes it worse, and like everything was crowded, so it was just like anxiety out the ass whenever I got off stage, and I mean, it eventually was a good night, but just at that time though, like I was like I couldn't handle it. Like everything literally melted,
Yeah,
and like
Man.
I was like I didn't know like where I was. Like I was aware, but I was like, okay, is this like all real? And again, I had to face with my back towards the crowd, but it ended up being a good night because Chipper Jones played.
Oh, yeah,
And I remember during their set, it was like I was probably peaking,
Yeah.
and like they're kind of like a
Oh,
they're
that
like
was
a
the first armory, right?
yeah
First-
yeah it was like they're like a 2-piece kind of like Animal Collective type shit, and I just remember at one point when I was peaking, I was just like, man, like I just feel. That's what I like about psychedelics is like I could just feel the earth moving beneath me, and like I was like I fucking love that.
I envy that because they've both played on shrooms.
Yeah.
Like tripping. I want to.
That's
But I'm also scared because drums are like a whole different deal.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, we
yeah.
were tripping, playing, jamming one time, and I was telling Caleb like, yeah, man, we just gotta trip and play a show, and we're tripping, and I was like, whoa. There was just a moment when I was so intense, and Caleb looks at me and he's like, "You ready to play that show?" I was like,
Ready to walk on that stage
I don't
set
know
up
if I
right
can
now?
understand.
Yeah.
But that's I'm almost cruel because if my guitarist told me he was on shrooms, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm watching you all night. I'm watching you."
Well, I went to go visit my friends right before the holidays, and I brought some shrooms that they were just like sitting in a drawer, and whenever I gave them or I brought them to my friends, and I was like, hey, like I guess we could maybe just take some pieces of the cap and just kind of trip a little bit, because I was like, yeah, you know what, man, I don't have a lot of time down here, so I'm not really trying to like trip for like 8 hours and have an existential crisis. And my friend looked at me and he was like, oh, you're not? Like he was sad. He was sad that I said I wasn't trying to have an existential crisis.
I
Like,
want to go deep with you, man.
Yeah.
You know?
That happens like every time.
There's always that moment of the trip.
Yeah.
But I've always tempted because you hear like these bands like the Beatles and shit on some like trippy shit. Like they're tripping while they're trying to write this album, or like.
That's
Part of
Yeah,
me is
I
like,
can't fathom that.
do you
Like,
have
I
to
can't
be,
function.
yeah, like, do
Tough.
you have to be in a mental
See,
state?
then again, they have. I always get it confused. Is it George Martin or is it?
Yeah, the
George
producer?
Wilson.
George
Oh,
Martin,
It's
yeah.
George Martin. See, they had all these lab coats behind all the
That's
mixers
true.
and all
That's
these
true.
desks. All they had to do is just be high and play.
yeah.
Wouldn't that be trippy to look through the glass? You just see a bunch
Yeah,
of lab
True.
coats.
You feel like a lab rat,
Am I
yeah.
part of an experiment right
For
now?
real.
That
Yo,
happened
Ringo,
a
what the
lot.
fuck?
Back,
Yo, what are you
back when
doing?
like that drug first started coming around, like they were just like scientists and like just trying to figure it out, trying to
Yeah.
study it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was legal at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Because they didn't know shit about
The
it.
guy that
Yeah.
tripped that founded the LSD, like that shit, he
Yeah.
was riding his
A
bike
home.
Yeah.
and he was tripping balls. He's just like,
It was an
It's
accident.
just like
He's-
an accident.
He
Dude.
said he thought when he got home, he was like looking out his window. He thought like his neighbor was a witch or something. Like he was just losing his mind.
Dude.
Man, that'd be cool.
Imagine that first
Like,
person to
not
trip.
knowing.
Yeah, he
not
was
knowing.
the first person.
On LSD. Not. I mean,
LSD,
people have been using ayahuasca
Yeah.
and mushrooms for hundreds of years.
But LSD
for
is such a-
thousands of
Yeah,
years.
it's
mushrooms.
different.
It's different, dude.
There's a documentary on Netflix called Last of the Sunshine Makers.
Yeah,
or something
I saw
like-
it.
Dude,
That's a
such
good
a
one.
good one, man. Such a good. He's like, we're in the lab, we're doing. He's like, oh shoot, oh crap, I just took 2,000 mics or whatever.
Oh,
shit.
fuck.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you're like, oh.
He's like, that was hot. Oh shit.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. So I can only
One time
imagine.
I fucked with liquid LSD and we were giving, at the time I was in Colorado and we were divvying it out to trip. And they're like, no, and you do it. I'm like, cool, because I always have gum on me. So I got gum, I cut the stick of gum. Not forgetting that liquid LSD absorbs super fast in your skin. So I'm over here
really?
dipping everybody's fucking thing. Meanwhile, I'm divvying it up. I'm like, I'm already starting to trip.
Wow.
Before I even take my own piece of gum that I've divvied it out.
Way,
So I'm just like, oh shit. And then I'm like laying down. And the people's living room, they had those African masks.
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah.
like three,
Yeah.
like stacked on top of each other. And then I just felt like that should just.
I
I'm like, no.
That's the best thing to do is like zone out in a painting, just stare at it, like a pattern.
Yeah.
It's the best.
I wonder, is it true that like Hendrix like would actually put like LSD?
Yeah,
on
I
his,
don't
like,
know.
head?
Is that just a
Yeah.
theory?
I feel like he did it once, and then like that rumor started, and then it's like his whole headband was full, bro.
Yeah.
Soaked it and put it on.
Fucking soak that shit and put it on. Yeah, like it's kind
That's
of like.
not sweat.
Wasn't it like fucking Ozzy Osbourne that bit the head off the bat or
bat,
some shit?
yeah.
Oh, dude.
But I don't think he was
don't
tripping
even-
though. Was he?
Yeah.
No, but it's like one of those stories. It's like, oh, he grabbed a bat.
Yeah, it's just
But yeah, he's
exaggerated.
just
Kind
like,
of like
did
the
some-
Marlon Manson one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He broke his ribs to suck his
Suck his
dick.
own dick.
Yeah,
right.
That's why I don't
Yeah.
have ribs anymore.
I don't know.
noticed
That
that.
was around. Okay, if you're Marilyn Manson, blew up in the '90s, so you would have to have been in that like basically like you'd have to be like right under 30 or like 40 right now to like the people who were above us started it.
Yeah, and there was the internet wasn't what it is now.
So you
it
had to
was
be like
just
in high school, like in
Yeah.
like the mid '90s for you to like start that, and then it just went down the
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah, dude. I heard that shit in middle school. I was like, what? You said you're like this.
Yeah, that went around.
Oh my God,
That went
It's like
around.
Marilyn
Everybody
Manson,
knew.
Rockstar, ribs, dick sucking by
And the
myself.
other one was that he was the kid in Wonder Years with the glasses. That was the other thing about him.
I've
was that
never heard that one.
No.
Marilyn, and I totally spread both of those.
I haven't heard that one. That's great.
What's some of your favorite shows seen? Start with Nico again. Best show you've
I actually
ever
don't
seen.
go out to shows that much, but I went to see Phoenix because I actually got tickets to see the Voids, Julian Casablancas and the Voids. And I was like, oh shit, like I'm excited to see him. And then come to find out, like a week or so before, not a week, like a month before, but I had bought them like 6 months ago. A month before, I was like, oh fuck, they're actually opening for Phoenix. I was like, I would see the Voids, and it's like, oh shit, like good price. I was like, I thought they're just playing alone. It's like fucking opening for Phoenix. I think that's when I told him, and I was like, oh fuck, like we gotta get
It's a
those tickets.
win, yeah.
So the Voids sucked. They were not good. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But Phoenix fucking blew my mind. They were spectacular. Like hands down the best show I've ever seen in my life.
Wow, where?
Yeah, where was this?
It was
South side, South
Yeah,
Southside
Southside
Ballroom.
Ballroom.
Yeah.
Used to be Palladium.
Yeah.
Dude, that was and they actually had like a vending machine when you go in, and you can like buy their merch off of this vending machine for
What?
Phoenix.
Wow.
And one of them apparently had a golden ticket, and like midway through the show, he stops, and like you're talking about how Phoenix has like they don't sing with an accent,
Yeah.
so they're singing in English, and then he stops and okay, who has the golden ticket? It's like what the fuck? But it was like so somebody shows up, was like okay, so it was a soccer ball. They Voids and Phoenix were playing like indoor soccer, and then they got the ball and signed it, all of them, and then they gave it to this guy. And I was like, holy
got
fuck,
the
that's awesome! I would
That's
totally sell that
so
shit on eBay like as soon as I got home.
Yeah. Someone buy it like immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was an amazing, crazy. The light show was fucking mind
I
blowing.
love Southside Ballroom too. That's
Yeah,
a
that
cool
place is
spot.
pretty cool. I saw, I think, Jungle there. Jungle's pretty good. They're like British, like house-ish music. They have their own thing going on. They're pretty
Okay.
But yeah, that was my favorite one.
Dude, that's my favorite one too. But mine is because they were. So what happened is we all went and I ended up being by myself at the show. So I was in the middle, and then they were all in the outskirts.
Yeah.
So I was dead ass in the middle of the show. And there's because Phoenix has been my shit since like freshman year of high school. So like my life has always been like jamming Phoenix albums, especially just their whole discography. So at one point, homeboy Tomas Mars got down and was walking around and he was singing what's the song? Rome.
Okay.
It's one of my favorite songs. It's like a slow song and there's like a vocal break in between. And right when he was singing, he was right next to me and I was like singing to
And he
it,
kissed
too.
him.
And I just sucked his dick. Yeah, but I was like right there, like, I was singing with him, and it was just like literally the concert I always like. When I imagine my concert experience watching them live, and that was my first time watching them because that's the first time I was able to catch them.
Yeah.
Like the rest was like sold out.
Yeah.
Especially after Wolfgang Amadeus came out,
Mm.
they sold out everything.
Yeah, that was a big album.
That album is amazing.
The album still is the best.
I think
pop album.
1901 is the second greatest pop song ever made.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Don't at me though.
Yeah.
Gabriel, what's yours?
Like shows.
Yeah. Locally or...
Yeah, I was gonna say probably more. I have more like local show memories because I've probably seen more local bands than I have big bands. But of course, when I saw Johnny Marr from the Smiths twice, that was pretty good. I'm trying to think of harkening back to like the punk days. I'm trying to think of some bands, like some hardcore bands that have like blown my mind. A few local and then some touring acts, but it's kind of fuzzy now. But I would say that locally, though, I would say that Sub-Zero EP release show, they were on fire. Whenever we saw them,
As far as that was a good show.
yeah, that was a good
But
show.
locally, I would say, what's the guy that used to play in Primo Slam?
Oh, Steve Nash.
Steve Nash.
Nash.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
Steve Nash played a Dada, and
Yeah.
for some reason I went because, like I said, I don't usually go to shows. But that shit, I enjoyed that show very, very much.
And then when we played Austin with Modular Sun in Millbrook Estates,
That was a good show.
Yeah, that was a
Electric
good show,
Church.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Electric Church. I
Yeah.
just saw that.
Yeah, that shit. Yeah, Modular Sun, they're pretty
yeah,
damn
Modular
good.
Sun's dope.
Yeah.
Dude. That whole Austin psychedelic scene that's popping is
Yeah.
Killer, man.
And we played a good show too on last week with me and Motor Scooter. That was good.
That was a good show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a popping show.
That was a good lineup.
Yeah,
Like every band.
yeah, every
pretty
band was
killer.
good.
I enjoyed that show. The first show that I saw you guys before I was in the band was pretty dope.
Oh, that was Fanning House,
Fanning
right?
House,
Yeah.
House show.
Gabe crowd surfed and he was like, this close to the roof, playing his,
It's a small
his
group.
solo.
Yeah.
Everyone's like jumping.
That's when he was like, I gotta join this band.
Greg was
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah, Greg
Yeah.
was playing the Guns for Hire.
Sub-Sahara always puts on a great show. And then, but the best show I've ever seen was I went to the New Orleans Voodoo Festival
Oh, dude.
and I saw a bunch of bands, but the favorite was Diane Ward.
Oh, shit,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, Diane
That
Ward.
was
That would be
so
wild.
great.
There's some weird motherfuckers, dude. South African.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird, dude.
Dude,
Oh,
you've
wait,
heard of that,
Diane.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I just couldn't hear. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of them. Yeah,
That
but
was,
those, yeah.
that was so crazy.
Yeah.
That's
I can
weird. What's
imagine
favorite show y'all have played?
There's so
The
many.
best show y'all played? Everyone has different like criteria for that. Like,
Probably like one of the Fanning shows.
Yeah.
I think the Den. I always keep.
The first show I played with you guys because
Second, because you played the first show you played was South by. Second day, 'cause we
played
two
yeah.
shows in one day.
First day, second show.
Yeah, so we played
Yeah.
the first like a week after he joined. I was like, you gotta learn this shit
Shit,
fast
man.
because we gotta
South
play
by,
South by
yeah,
next
that's-
week. Yeah. So we had to play South by in the evening and then drive all the way back to play Fanning House in Denton. And yeah, that show was fucking killer. Because I think we were headlining. We were last.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
last.
Like we made it like just in time.
in time to
Yeah.
load
house shows are crazy, man. It's just that tight space. You get that energy.
Especially in
everybody
Denton
wants-
though, like the
Denton.
Denton like house show circuit scene is like it's really cool. Like everybody's there for the music
Oh.
instead of like being there is like oh because my friend dragged me or some shit
Yeah.
like that where you see some house shows here. was like, there's like everybody's like, oh, who the fuck is playing? And like, oh, I know this band. Oh, I know them. And like, you know everybody, and everybody's like tight, and they're all cool.
Yeah.
Like it's totally a different vibe. It's totally
They do
different.
have like a whole circuit, like house shows.
Oh, yeah,
A
they
lot
do.
of house
They do.
movies out there.
And
Lot of
it's
love
cool
from
that they
them,
like and like they're doing the well, now it's not called Fuck Fest, but the Free Underage Cool Kids Fest.
Oh,
And
yeah, I
they're
saw you guys
doing
playing
with
that.
which we gotta figure that shit out.
Yeah, I gotta figure that shit
Yeah,
out.
because we were like, oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyway,
TMI.
Yeah.
but I forgot what I was saying.
Fuck Fest.
Oh yeah, so they're putting it on in like 3 or 4 different houses because now they split it into 2 weeks. So it's
Oh,
like
okay.
Friday, Saturday, and then Friday, Saturday next week.
Oh.
So they're putting it. So they like get together all these like house show owners and like develop all these events and they do like art shows and shit. Like it's cool. Like they actually become like a venue. And
Yeah.
it's really cool. Like Denton has that shit, and it's pretty unique. I'd say I haven't seen that here in Dallas or
Yeah.
anywhere else for
Just
that
a
matter.
few, but yeah, not like that.
Yeah, not as together and like working for the community, you know. Yeah.
I mean, I would say my first time playing in Austin was very big for me.
When was that? Spider House?
Spider House.
Spider, no, yeah, Spider House.
I didn't like Spider House that
I
much.
didn't like the venue, but it's just like being in a different town.
We met a lot of cool people.
Yeah, it's like wow. I
Oh,
used
that's
to
where
do
we
this in
met
the Brandon Square.
Rolling
Nobody
Sun.
States.
Yeah,
Rolling
Rolling
States,
Sun.
yeah.
So it's just like interesting. I'm in a different spot playing music, and then some people liked it. So it's just like wow, that's interesting.
That's cool.
It's
Yeah, I
just
feel
like
like
being
the
in a
first
whole
time
different
playing
environment.
Austin
Yeah.
is always cool.
Yeah.
Because Austin's like don't they call it the musical capital of the world or something like
Yeah,
that?
it's, I think
Like
just,
getting there, even though it really doesn't mean anything, because anybody can play in Austin.
Yeah.
But like actually playing, there's like holy fuck, like
Yeah.
like I made it, you know. And then the little
We're so close. We're we're
Yeah.
lucky shit.
Yeah.
yeah,
We're
totally,
really
totally,
lucky.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for other bands, I mean, the only time they do Austin is when they reach the level to play South by.
Yeah.
That's like the
Or they're
only
coming through on
time.
a tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone goes. South by is just. It's just like so much.
There's a
I don't
lot.
know. It's just,
It is.
It is
So
so
Yeah,
much.
play, like we played on 6th Street.
Yeah.
Oh, both times, right?
Yeah. But just
It-
like
it's a
anything in
nightmare,
America,
like,
though, it
walking
starts
around
out
and
as
walking.
something genuine and then ends up into a
Yeah.
corporate thing.
Yeah, exactly.
No shade on South by or anybody who's playing it, but
it
it's
just happens. That way,
yeah.
It is.
You
man.
could tell. That's why. But everyone says that these past few years. Everyone's like, kind of talking shit about it. My favorite question, one of the last ones. What's your spirit animal?
Here's start, Paul.
Yeah.
Wait, did you say your favorite show? Oh yeah, you did, right?
Yeah, did you say your favorite show?
No, they ignored me.
My favorite show is
Friends? Oh, your favorite show. Oh,
Yeah.
right.
You want to tell me your favorite show?
That's okay.
All right. Anyways,
Spirit.
spirit animal. I like
It can be mythological. It can be.
Made up.
Made up. Oh, fuck.
That's a whole
Just
nother
open,
level.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to take a second of this one. Yeah.
This reaction makes sense. Sometimes people are like, sea monkey or something. I'm
Yeah.
like, so you already know your spirit? I don't know. Like,
Or they'll be
you
like,
thought of that before?
he reminds
Is
me
there
like
a
an
test
eagle.
you
I
can
don't know why. Like a bird.
It's an eagle, yeah. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
you
should
can just
just
take
do-
a bunch of mushrooms and
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Become your
You
animal.
definitely
we'll
yeah.
pause it, let y'all do a trip, and then come
Yeah.
back with your
Yeah.
answers. To be continued.
Yeah. We'll be back in like 8 hours.
So you're playing Fuck Fest. We saw that in Denton, the house show circuit. Do you have any other upcoming shows or?
I have a couple of shows lined up. We're
Mine's a
playing
panda
Armory. I think we're playing Armory like
what?
twice.
I can see like that. You're like,
I want to own one, but it's kind of illegal. But
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
yeah, but that's okay.
Illegal.
Here's the thing, though, is that
Yeah.
I think everybody's kind of missing the question. Like, your spirit animal isn't just something that you like. It has to. It's a lot more intrinsic than that.
Yeah,
you
kinda
can't
like
just throw out an
your
animal.
personality.
just 'cause
I'm,
you
I'm a
like
pan.
it.
I'm like big.
because I like lions.
But you're not
Right.
fucking lying. You're like
I'm
a.
not-
Yeah, you're
I'm
like
more
a
like a
hyena.
monkey.
See,
You're the
other
cheetah.
band members might be better at like, no, you're this.
You're this, you're this.
Yeah, I think that
It's
it's just like a vision quest type
Yeah.
of thing. Like you have to, it has to come to you. You can't just say, "Oh, I like wolves."
I would say
so
games and
yeah.
I'm a wolf, or
An
you know,
owl.
I'm the zodiac. I'm a Leo. I can't just, I can really identify with that. Like I can't. I don't feel comfortable just saying that. Like oh, like you know, I'm a fucking
like an owl's
lion or
Yeah.
you know, or tiger.
It just feels like you're forced. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
exactly,
this,
yeah.
this, I don't know.
You're an owl in my eyes. You're wise.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. What about Paul?
You're like a chipmunk, bro. I'm sorry.
Frankly, don't see that.
I would say like a dog.
No, you look a
A
chipmunk.
chipmunk?
Yeah, you got
Is
the
he
body of
what?
an
Is he your
intern.
best friend?
and the
See,
animal-
but again, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's to see everybody. I think we're all kind of missing the point.
Someone, what would Gabe be? What would y'all?
He said owl.
Yeah, he said owl.
Oh, owl. Yeah, that's
I can see
Owls.
Gabe as an owl.
Yeah,
wise. Very wise.
Hoot right now. See how it sounds.
But remember though, like you can't also too like in the because we're talking about psychedelics. Like I don't want to be like
that.
yeah, I don't want to be like oh like I appreciate it, but I'm not gonna go out and say oh
you're
I'm
out.
wise or oh I'm like a guru because I hate that word guru. I don't want to ever say like oh I'm a guru or and people who
I didn't
proclaim
say that.
themselves to be.
Yeah, I take it too far.
You know, I've seen, was it Wild Wild Country?
Yeah, that's
On
crazy.
Yeah,
Netflix?
I haven't seen it, but I know what it's about. Yeah.
Man, oh, watch that
That's
shit.
crazy. Yeah,
It's
that's
crazy.
great.
That's
a good
really
one.
cool.
That's a really good one.
Drugs are crazy, man. Thank you guys for coming out. This was
Yeah.
really fun.
I completely forgot we were recording. Damn.
I
talked
This
shit.
was one of the better ones.
Hey, you
Better
said
ones
you
we've
said you
done.
sucked Thomas Mars' dick.
I know.
That's right.
And I'm
That could be the
pregnant.
preview. That could be the preview for
Yeah.
it.
And Tomas, I'm pregnant.
He's like, hey,
Your boy need chicks. Or Euros, whatever the fuck they have.
Yeah.
I don't
what
think
is
we've ever
French?
talked about tripping on here either.
No.
We're OGs. But
Oh, geez.
you guys
Yeah,
played
damn.
some badass songs for us.
Yes,
This is super
seriously.
fun.
It was hell
Thank you
fun.
guys for agreeing to do this.
It was fun seeing you
Yeah.
again and you again.
Dude, we got a
Yeah.
band
It's been a
coming
long time,
soon.
man. Yes.
So hopefully we can
Wait,
be out
another
there
band?
playing some shows with you.
Yeah, new name, new almost.
So
new
no
members.
more White
New
Rhinos?
name.
Yeah, we dropped a member and added one. Probably looking for another right
Cool.
now. We just
What?
had two, but had to get rid of one.
guys, I'm quitting.
But yeah,
Remember to the dark side.
we need bass players.
Is that what y'all are looking for as a bass player?
Yes,
Yeah.
man. It's on.
And you know, yeah, I mean, it's just like we were talking about. We don't necessarily
There you
need
go,
a guy
dude.
to shred. We just need a guy to come in and just play bass. Yeah, that's it.
Bring Steve in.
Shit, we'll book a show. We'll play first, so he's on, and then he can go right after
Just
you.
stay on stage.
Just stay on stage.
You can backline your own bass head.
Give him those like fake glasses with the nose and the mustache.
Well, I'm sure this is also the first interview where somebody called somebody else a hoe.
Yeah. Damn, he was a.
No,
I was
no,
like,
I was a band
band
hoe.
hoe.
You didn't say that.
Yeah,
No, he said band hoe. He said
No, he said ho, and then he stopped, and then he corrected.
as a hoe. He was a hoe. I mean, band hoe.
I mean, he plays in a lot of bands.
Yeah.
Only thing I can think of
That's
adding off the
great,
top
man.
is like, well, no, I'm just playing, because I don't necessarily disagree.
Just let's start over.
but-
Let's start over.
Yeah.
Let's just cut
Let's
all
erase
that.
it. Let's erase it. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, dude. Thank you guys so much, man.
Yeah,
Seriously,
this
had
is
a
the
great
end.
time.
This is the end.
Clap.
Bye.
Hey, guys.